I lay a few nights ago with one child cuddled in my arms, sleeping softly, and one kicking away in my belly. It was beautiful, it was precious, and yet my mind whirled with should. I should put her back to sleep so I can get back to work. I should finish that project, and that project, and that project. I should have exercised today. I should be packing my lunch for tomorrow, which should be healthier than it's bound to be. I should have exercised today, and I didn't. I should be putting more time into my side business. I should read more. I should iron my shirt. I really should put her back to bed so I can get back to work. But I didn't. And nothing bad happened. The work will still get done on time. Things that should be perfect might just have to be good enough. And sometimes good enough really is good enough. Sometimes progress is more important than perfection. So that night I practiced letting go of perfect, embraced good enough, and embraced that little sleeping body in the dark. Perfect. I know though that I'm not the only one. As women, we are constantly judging ourselves, judging each other, holding ourselves up against some bizarre idea of perfection that simply doesn't exist, and it's exhausting. I mean, is anything in the tech space perfect? A one-size-fits-all, never-fails solution? Obviously not. So why would we, as flawed human beings, hold ourselves to an infinitely higher standard than a machine, which when programmed right, never tires, never fails, and never gets anything wrong? It's ridiculous. Let's do a rewrite. Let's turn it off and turn it on again. And maybe this time let's focus on progress over perfection. Here with me, I have 3 Volvo Cars women from different backgrounds, different specialities, different generations, all united by their passion to make things better for women in tech. Annika Albertsson is a group project lead with over 30 years of experience in the digital business and leadership space. Cecilia Johansson has lived and worked in a whopping 9 countries, has experience in management consulting, the public sector, research and development, and is now a product manager. And Malabika is a senior engineering manager with 20 years of experience as a software engineer and engineering manager. I'm Robyn. I work in communications at Volvo Cars, and it's my privilege to be your moderator for this panel discussion today. We want to serve you, our audience. There is no point if you don't go home feeling more interested than you did before. So we're breaking our session up into 2 parts, so you'll have 2 opportunities to ask questions, one round about the middle and one at the end. That said, if we don't get to your questions in those sessions, please look us up on LinkedIn. Please continue the conversation. This is not one and done. The whole point of this thing is to make friends, make connections, and help each other grow. So, blah, blah, blah. I'm done. Let's move on to the interesting people in the room. It's the first question for all of you. Let's start simple. What drew you into the tech space, and what was the landscape like when you started? Annika, let's start with you.
Yeah. I had a father was a little bit of early adapter. He did calculus models for real estate investments, so I knew kind of things that things happened. But generally, it was the Swedish school system, because they, at that point in time, early 80s, gave you a school, the closest one. And I really, really wanted to go into the city. So I had to go out and find something that differed something from what actually was offered. And found Visvesska Gymnasium that offered a computer science direction, and I went for that, and I got a spot, and yeah, that's from there. At that point in time, in the early 1980s, we had 2 TV channels. The cell phone was invented. It was a big box, like a military com box that you carried around. Cash was king. You paid your bills by pen and paper. You did your tax pen and paper. So there was not really nothing there, actually, more than maybe odd things around statistics and maths.
Malabika, what about you?
Yes, for me, I was born and raised in India. And when I was in school, obviously, I was scoring much better in math and physics, for example, compared to history and geography. So picking that stream was the easy choice. But that's how it should have happened if there is no bias in the society, but that's not the case. So then the difficult bit was the thing that, I mean, there are certain subjects for girls, certain for boys, and then you are supposed to pick the right one for you. But luckily for me, I also had a dad who was the biggest feminist I had ever known. And to be a feminist, you don't have to be a woman, as many of the men here kind of exemplify. And so that was the help that I got, and got into studying physics, applied physics, specializing in electrical engineering. And then back then, when I graduated, the digital boom in the Bangalore, it caught up. So I was also sucked into that boom. And I never really looked back. I started working as a hands-on engineer, and then slowly climbed up the ladder. And so many things, interesting things happened over the past 2 decades. And I never really regretted any of the decisions.
And Cecilia?
Yeah, I'm really happy to be here, first of all. This is amazing, and it's been a really amazing day to meet so many amazing women. I am both Swedish and Indian, so I'm both. I grew up in 9 countries in West Africa, Asia, Europe, and I worked in the US as well, so I've been happy with the countries that I've been able to see. I started my career in management consulting, and then I moved over to the public sector, and then I think me moving around a lot made me feel like I wanted to ask questions and make sure that what I was doing was having a positive impact. So that has always been my red thread. And after I worked with the Ministry for Foreign Affairs, I wanted to work in tech because I felt like it was a faster paced environment. So I switched over to work at the Open Innovation Arena in our R&D team, and I just became a product manager not so long ago. So, yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And then in the time that you've all been in the tech space, if you could narrow it down to one thing, what's been the biggest area of change in this industry since when you started?
The speed of development, I must say. Things went slow. I mean, when I started, you couldn't even imagine that everyone would have this, storing the same amount of data that we had in a computer hall in Volvo Cars at that point in time. And it's 40 years. Yeah. It's only 40 years. So that is maybe amazing. I think and all the choices you get today by streaming, how we want to pay things. So we have a lot of more choices, and tech is also more for fun than necessity.
Yeah, I mean, I can totally agree. And it's a difficult question, by the way, because in the last 2 decades, so many things have changed. But if I have to pick one, it will also be kind of in the hardware space, how things changed, in the sense that the memory, it used to be not as cheap as it is today. So a lot of coding practice was around the time that how economical you can be around utilizing the memory. And now it looks like that skill is kind of obsolete these days, because you just buy it and add more memories almost for nothing. But sometimes I think, is that a good idea? Because, I mean, okay, those processing chips can be cheap, but doesn't that add extra cost to the environment and the sustainability of the planet? But irrespective of that, I mean, that is something that I can pick as one of the things that has changed quite a lot since I started.
And Cecilia, what about you?
Yeah, I actually also want to add, I think, from my point of view, I think there's more literature, more books, more conversation around women in tech in general. I mean, just take this conference as an example of that as well. Yeah.
Annika, I want to come back to you because you've been at Volvo and thus in the automotive and tech space for a very long time, 2 industries which are very well known to be dominated by men. How have things changed in terms of the role played by women in your space specifically?
As we discussed before, when I really had to think about it, and one of the speakers today actually brought that up, we were more women. But we also were more women in a space that I would say maybe are more from a women's point of view. We focused our digital development around automating things, taking away boring tasks. It was a lot of admin and admin processing. So I guess the guys probably was in the computer halls, the network technicians, we didn't see them. And I never went down in that cellar. I just utilized and consumed what I actually put together so I can code. So we were more women. We had women in quite high leadership also for big programs in Volvo Cars in the 90s.
Sure. And then contrasting that, Cecilia, you're a much more recent starter. What does it look like now?
In comparison to...
Well, I guess what's your experience been like since when you started?
Sorry?
What's your experience been like since when you started?
I think everyone can share this. There are good days and there are not so good days. So it goes in waves. But I mean, I think I would be lying if I said that it's not always so easy working in a heavy industry company. There is obviously a boys' club that exists, but I try to surround myself with friends and good female colleagues that I can talk to that make me feel less crazy when I'm completing.
I think that's a good standard for friends.
Yes.
Am I crazy?
So maybe this kind of atmosphere.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No,
It's a
but it
safe
really
space.
makes a difference to talk to others. Yeah.
Absolutely. Then Malabika, you grew up and were educated and started your career in India, and then you've since lived in many different countries across the world, and you've worked there as well. How has the experience been as a woman in tech and a woman of color in tech comparatively?
Yeah, obviously, I mean, things are different a little bit from country to country, and also in between spent 2 decades, that also changed things. But there was one common thing, and that's there is a clear pecking order. So it's white man, white woman, man of color, man of color. That's where I belong. That's the common thing I find, and the lower you are in the pecking order, things are more difficult for you. Given that things are also different, for example, when in India, obviously the race thing didn't apply to me, but the gender bias was a lot stronger, at least back then. And then in UK and France, where I worked, I met with and befriended with some very good, absolutely fantastic women engineers, but the participation is nowhere near 50-50, as you would expect. And that's probably, it's no news to any of you. You probably know the statistics well. And then I came to Sweden, which was supposed to be the epitome of gender equality and those kind of things. But yes, it's a lot better. I must say that. But the thing that still remains, that there is bias, you can feel it, but a little bit in a different way. Instead of having a robust, direct, no, you can't do that, it's more like, it's a bit of a passive-aggressive.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a soft
Yes.
nudge. So you still get discriminated against, but with a lot of smile. So
Is that better? Or?
no, it's not.
No,
it's
it's
not
not.
better. Sometimes you'll be like, no, I'd rather take a hard no so that I can punch it on the face of it. But yeah, well,
But
yeah,
also
it
you
gets-
know where you have that person as
Yeah.
well. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Before we move on to talking about our stories of progress versus perfection, I'd like to open the floor to some questions from the audience.
We're in a group where we like each other. It's okay.
It's a safe
We're
space
supposed to
here.
support each other.
No questions? Oh, can I give you the microphone?
But I'll try. I think coming from, for example, you have a very rich background. You've been to many places. The same, moving to a new country or coming to Sweden. And I've also come to Sweden after like my 30s, was it? Yes. But growing up in a culture where where it's not like passive aggressive, it's direct, where you get you probably get that attitude from even your family as growing up, and then the closest people just tell you to sort of know your place and to even maybe sit in a certain way just because you're a woman. I think that becomes such a heavy load at our back constantly, and then we just are put in the same environment with people, and especially with men who've usually been encouraged just to go for it and just to conquer the world. I find that to be the hardest part of the competition, because they are only and fully focused on the goal ahead, and then you are just processing so much along the way as you try to get to the role or to the goal. So how do you feel about that? Does your brain also process way too much than it should while you try to get to the goal or like to accomplish something? Because that's something that still is there in my head constantly, because I think that's keeping us back at times as well as women.
I totally, absolutely agree. It's like running with a heavy thing, heavy bag on your back, and then there is another man from a very privileged background who's also running, and he is totally free, and then you need to run the same race and finish on the same time. But no, your initial condition is not the same. So that is there. Obviously, I have faced it, I feel it, and I kind of know that till the rest of my career probably it will continue. But I mean, as human beings, we are also pretty adaptive. So what happens that when you're put in a difficult situation, you kind of develop some mechanism to counteract that. So for some people, they ignore it. For some, I mean, you can maybe take satisfactions from somewhere, but it's definitely there. So it's not the same initial condition. It's not the same terrain, but you are supposed to achieve the same result at the same time.
Right, let's talk then about the pressure to be not just good, not just come at the same time as the race, but to be perfect, to win, and be really attractive whilst you're doing it, and do it in heels, and do it while on your period, and do it whilst taking care of a child, and doing it whilst being thin and perky-boobed. How? Cecilia, so I was researching this topic a long time ago, and I messaged, and Cecilia had the most amazing response on the email that kicked off this whole discussion. Cecilia, I want you to tell me about where this came from, this pressure to be not just good, but perfect, and how you deal with it.
Not the anger from the long essay that I sent you. Okay.
We've processed that.
Okay, we're past that. No, but it's like I think it's a really important thing because I think it's relatable to so many women, like regardless if you're in tech or whatever. And I think you talked about it a little bit as well. From the organizations and the countries that I've lived in, I've noticed that there is this image of what we define as a perfect leader. And that is a man, and he's probably heterosexual, and he's probably not a person of color. So then, bearing that in mind, that person will probably have a lot of authority and respect that just comes automatically. And then if you keep that in mind, and then think about women of color, especially women with Asian heritage, they talk about this in the book, The Authority Gap as well. I think we should read that book, it's a good one. You're going to be prone to quicker burnouts because you're working towards achieving something that is absolutely unobtainable, and you're trying to get the same level of authority and respect, which is like impossible. And I'm exhausted just explaining this. I mean, it's not strange that women of color are prone to quicker burnouts. So I think we need to be kind towards ourselves, and I think there is also a tendency for these women as well to get a lot of pressure put on them and then put that pressure to other women in the team. And that creates this toxic competition, which isn't great because we should be supporting each other and not competing against each other. Yeah.
You told me a little story about looking for a female mentor to be that support role for you. Can you tell us what happened?
I mean, when I joined like the tech scene, I wanted to get a mentor as fast as possible, and I asked a couple of people to be my mentor, and I got the response that in order to get by in the tech world, you need a male mentor, someone to sponsor you, which is sad because I wanted a female mentor. I wanted a female leader to look up to. But yeah, I mean, it is important to have a mentor and someone that you can talk to and aspire to be like, because then there's hope as well.
And how do you use those sort of difficulties and what you've had to go through to develop empathy for others? How are you better because of it?
Oh, I'm much better because of it. I'm so grateful for all of the experiences that I've had. I've been in situations, and I didn't mention this actually, just forgot about this, but the thing I was saying, when you're working really hard towards being that unobtainable image of what a perfect leader is. You're trying to be confident, but not too confident. You're trying to speak in a certain way. You're trying to look in a certain way. And especially in Sweden, you're not supposed to be too different. You're supposed to be like everyone else. And if you look different, then good luck. It's not great. But that is also a gift, because then you're kind of like, heroes of minority groups, and you gain another perspective, and that builds empathy. And I think good leaders need to be empathetic and take other point of views. So, yeah, I think it's a gift to be different.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So looking at, I sort of mentioned it in the intro, but this perfect standard that is freaking all of us out, and I'm sure it's freaking you out too, we don't add it to anything else. It's just us. Because I mean, right, so in every article about tech ever, and I'm a writer, and it kills me, they all start out, in today's ever-changing world of technology. And you're like, if we accept that technology and the world is ever-changing, and there is no one-size-fits-all, and there's constantly going to be new standards and wrong things and broken things and fixed things, how are we sort of doing that to ourselves? And if we did have this sense of perfection for technology, what dangers would come about? And can we talk about some examples? Because I know that you've seen examples of perfect tech is not the case. Annika?
Yeah, well, we have a really great example in Y2K. When we started with digital development in my early years, when our storage were extremely expensive, you counted every byte. That meant that we took out the century number in everything, and we saved 2 bytes everywhere. And then year 2000 closed up, and everyone realized when you have a logical, if something is bigger than something, that will be very wrong, because something is less now. So we actually occupied the full world and all the mainframe coders, I would say, to change this. And in Volvo Cars, we were a little bit lucky, actually, because we had a long-range car planned for 2000. So we actually hit that 89, and no one understood why until we remember that. So I would say what makes sense now maybe don't make sense later. So I think we actually always need to work through the technology and whatever we are, see if this still fits in today.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I mean, my take on tech is that it's like a fire. So if you can harness it and use it, then obviously, I mean, that give you a lot of leverage, but at the same time, you should be very cautious about it because it can burn the whole thing down. And this is true with any new technology. For example, the one thing that comes to my mind is this latest development with AI, artificial intelligence. Initially some bots were released, and they were released into the social media so that they can learn the human behavior. So they were exposed to all kinds of biases and prejudices. So within 2 days, the bot becomes super sexist, super racist, not usable at all. And so that actually tells us that nowadays the tech and all this discussion about bias and prejudice and diversity and inclusion is ever more integrated. Because how can we develop something like an AI solution which will be free from the biases that we as humans have it? It can be programmed, but the programmer should know about it, should be aware of it. So this is obviously one thing that is coming up, and people are working. It's a known thing, but yes, it's one of the things that comes to the mind.
Let's talk about progress then within the tech space and the tech workspace when it comes to women, and then diversity in general. Are things genuinely better, or are the biases just better hidden?
Can I answer that?
Please.
I think a good example is we can take something more recent like COVID. Apparently, during COVID, the UN Women did a couple of reports that indicated that because a lot of women got to work at home, more of the domestic responsibilities fell upon the woman. So you would have a full-time job and you would be a full-time caretaker. So it led to women doing, less in the workplace, and that could impact the way that we see equality in the future, sadly. It could be that we see a bigger gap in the years to come. So, I mean, that's quite a recent example of that.
Mm-hmm. I believe that, in general, we are making progress. There are, of course, things to do. For example, the salary gap, the gender gap. The fact that we are even talking about it is that things are not perfect. But at least if you see the trend, it's going down. So, and we are having this kind of forums and discussions. So people are talking about it. The companies are talking about it. So I believe that in general, yes, we are making progress, but the battle is not won, at least.
But I also like that you're saying that, because we're talking about it, the typical saying like, oh, you were talking about it, that's why we're going towards the right direction, but you're kind of hitting the hammer on the nail and saying that
yes,
we're talking about it, so clearly it's not great right now.
No, exactly. I mean, in an ideal world, if things were perfect, then we wouldn't have to.
Yeah.
And so-
Can I add though? I do like. This is gonna sound like I'm such an advocate for Volvo Cars, but no. But if we talk about like these cultural roles as well, I quite like that Volvo. It was one of the reasons I joined Volvo as well. That we have this global parental leave, that we give both the male and the female the same amount of parental leave globally. So in the U.S., it's the same as well, and I think that's a really good thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And give equal face time to women and men back in the office.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Exactly.
I want to talk about your personal progress stories. How have you each let go of the perfection myth in your own personal and professional lives, and the deliverables for those?
I simply had to give up.
I love that you're
Yeah.
at this stage.
You know, I was the first adapted for Facebook, and Facebook was everywhere, and you was fed with the pics of everything was perfect. But you can't live up to that. It's impossible to live up to that. So I realized that I need to start to select what I think was important. And what is important, I don't know. What is important is maybe what I feel is important or what the family needs to prioritize. By age, by the years spent in work life, I also get more courage to say no or push back or think it's good enough, you don't need to fix the last 10%. You need to be kind to yourselves. You need to self-love.
Yeah.
And frankly, I'm not home proud. And my sister-in-law, she's very home proud. So we have a little bit of a conflict here. But I'm proud, I'm not home proud, and I really enjoy her fantastic tidy home.
But you're not comparing.
No?
No,
You can hear
there's no
that?
need.
Yeah. I obviously is. Yeah. Well, I am. I mean, I'm comparing. I'm unconscious. I'm still doing that, even if I think I'm safe in the choice or feel good with that choice. I still compare.
But you can compare yourself in a positive way as
Yeah.
well. Like you can see someone who you notice, like, oh, they're doing so well, and want to do that as well, and not see it in a negative point of view. And at least, like, I don't know if it's okay that I add to this question as well, but like the perfection myth, I think if you can get to the point where you just don't care what other people think, then breathe out. Yeah.
That's really important, and I believe the same thing is that I know that there are lots of things in the world which I cannot do. There are very few things which I'm good at, and I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
So if someone is very good at, say, dancing, well, good for her, but I'm not a dancer. So that's one way to look at it, that, I mean, you should know who you are and then select your things, and that's what works for me. And
I mean, I think that is diverse. I mean, the world would be very, very boring if everyone was great of everything.
yeah, exactly.
I mean,
So
it's like ice cream tastes. I mean, if everyone liked the same, we would have very few
Yeah.
tastes, flavors. So it's,
Thank God.
thank God.
When we talk about these things on the state of the world today, it can be really hard not to just get sucked down into the negative. And let's just say when we've been rehearsing and chatting, you get sidetracked about how crap things are sometimes. But sort of let's look to the future and let's talk about how we as women in tech can maybe make things better or make a change. But first of all, whose responsibility is it to make things better? Does it all fall on women of color, the diversity hires?
No.
Thank you.
Absolutely no. Just
Sorry,
period.
it was a leading question.
No. If you want to create big change, then you need a mass of people to create that change. You can't just have one small little group of people screaming for change into an empty chamber. That you're never going to see the change you want to. And I think if you take it from like a little bit of a bigger level, I think media has a responsibility to give the stage to different types of groups, different people, especially people in aspiring roles, so that people watching or listening can aspire to be something. And I think they said this in the beginning today in the conference, that it's great if you can find someone who looks like you in a position where you're like, I can do that too in a couple of years. I think for companies, we have a responsibility to hire based on talent and capacity, not based on similarity. And we have to do what we can in order to make sure that we're also keeping people so that people don't choose to leave because they get tired of a bad culture. And from a government point of view, I think governments need to make sure that the people making policies represent the people that will be receiving those policies. So it's not just one homogenous group of people pushing out policy for different groups of people who are receiving it. And schools, I think, have a responsibility, like Malabika, you have a daughter, to inspire women and like all children to choose different career paths. And
don't soft nudge them the way this is
because
exactly
you have that as well.
And I mean, and I would like to add at least that why should a particular group of people be trying to change it? Because when the change happens, it benefits the whole society. So it's not that when, let's say, the women of color are not discriminated against anymore, does it only help them? No, it helps the whole society. So it's the whole society's responsibility to make it happen, to facilitate it.
Yes, and it's all in our interest to do and help each other. Like, it's not great if just one minority group gets to come to the front of the stage. Like, I'm sorry, but that's not very smart. It's better, you know, there's strength in numbers and allies.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, the narrower your leadership, the wider your blind spot.
Yeah.
So you're all women in leadership. So I want to ask, how do we build up and retain other female leaders? Because getting them into the workspace is one thing, retaining them, promoting them, and making those higher levels safe for women, completely different. Malabika, you had a few examples we chatted about earlier.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So what we see, obviously to begin with, we have fewer women in tech in the ground level, but as the promotion happens, as we go to the higher level, so I think I was looking at some EU statistics, so it was around 1/3 at the ground level, then it becomes in the middle management, it becomes around 20%, then at the top level, CXO position, it becomes like under 10%. So that means that we're constantly losing women, even in leadership. And there I find one of the, we should really challenge the way the promotions happen, etc. Because most of the time, if you ask the question, the answer that you get back is that that's the best candidate, but that's a very opaque answer. We need to dig down. And the thing is, if you look at it, who is choosing, who is deciding who is the best candidate? If it's the very, it's only the white male choosing another white male and they think they are the best candidate, well, I don't buy into that. So we need to constantly, challenge that narrative. And I'm sure that we are not there yet, but like many other things that the feminists before us have owned, yeah, we can be there someday.
Yeah. And also, like, make room for other women. Like, if it's just men, yes,
Exactly.
but also, like, if you're part of the recruitment team, like, it's great if you're a woman, then get more women to the table.
Definitely,
Invite
yes,
more.
exactly. Yeah, even if there, there's the other thing also. They'll be putting some women in the table, but just to look it better, and at the end there will be some man will be chosen, and that's also a kind of thing that, yeah, many things happen.
So don't accept the status quo.
No.
Go for it. Do you want the mic?
That's good.
Yeah, great talks. It's really interesting to hear what you guys are talking, but I just have a quick question here, especially talking about those 1/3 of the population who are in the bottommost, still aspiring to grow into those under 20 and then maybe under 10. So what you're talking is how the top management should pull it from the bottom so that there's no discrimination and people are pulled upwards. But then how those people, in those 1/3 of the area, what should they do to, be and reach the ladder, climb the ladder and be in that top 20 or top 10%? What should be the steps? Because we talk about it, that there is a problem, but what are the solutions? That's more important to talk. Should we just go and shout it out loudly, oh, I need some, promotion, I need to climb up the ladder, or should we reach out to some specific people, or what should we do? That's a very important question. I'm asking it on some personal grounds because I have been through some similar situations and I've been figuring it out myself, what to do, basically, and that's, it would be a good point to share, if had it been you, what would you have done, what could be a possible way to, like, go up and, reach your goals and kind of, and not waiting for others to pull me up,
No, I understand, yeah. So, do you want to answer it?
Yeah, I think, actually, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
I think that you pointed out some points already, like finding your allies, finding good people around you that you can talk to, because you shouldn't be treated that way, and you should know your worth. I think worst case scenario, I think find your allies. If you feel like it's a culture where that culture is accepted, then don't try convincing the people that have drank the Kool-Aid. There's no point. Don't waste your energy. Be nice to yourself. Annika talked about that as well. Like, it's really important for you to take care of yourself first. And if it comes to like a really bad case where you're like, I can't do this anymore, then you start looking for organizations where you feel like this culture reflects the culture I want to be in. And once you start doing that, I think they mentioned this at the last Women in Tech conference, do your due diligence, look at the language in the work ad. What are they being very inclusive in their work ad language? When you do your interview, walk around, do you see other women? Do they look happy? Go into the bathrooms, look if they have sanitary goods. That tells you so much about the culture at a workplace. So do a little bit of research before you join a company, and also just, maintain your energy and be nice to yourself. And like I talked about this earlier, but also find a good sponsor who can vouch for you and speak for you. Because like you said, if you are, I don't really like thinking like bottom and top in that way, but if you find yourself in a very early stage of a career, it is important to have someone who's come a little bit further who can vouch and push you forward, because you can't be the one who's screaming on your own. Yeah.
I actually reflected of something to add here, and look into the age spread in the company also, because one thing actually that is a stopper, and maybe not even people are aware of that, is that we basically need to speak English if we are diverse nowadays, everyone. And if you look into the big industrial companies, they still have quite a lot of people born in the 50s, and they are not confident in that. So they avoid the fact that they maybe need to have the meetings in English. So by that bias, actually, they're excluding good candidates because they don't want to switch language.
And we're not perfect, so ask questions as well. Yeah.
I just have a very quick question then, to take another perspective. How are we as women working in the tech space and creating the next generation of technology helping women around the world?
I can maybe give an example from one of the things that I've seen in India. I'm sure in other developing countries as well. So some women there who is probably coming from a very difficult background, now let's say create an internet-based online business, maybe a Facebook page or something, create some traditional jewelry and sell it, and all she needs is a cell phone, a Facebook page, and some payment solution that she can use it to. And it's not a hypothetical situation. It really happened for many women, that they got financial independence, and with financial independence all kind of other freedoms. So they might probably can escape an abusive relationship or something. So it really empowers them. So that's one of the is very concrete example where the tech can help people, especially women in difficult situations.
And there is communities creating everywhere on the platforms for all and everything when it comes to topics, from menopause to whatever. I mean that is a really great group for the ones that need that one. So there is a lot of information to find out that actually can build you up and also get your personal contacts to get more. So I think that is creating a huge freedom for us. It's so easy to find out facts about maybe what you feel is a problem or need help with.
I mean, in general, like tech can be such a huge enabler for female equity, financial empowerment. You talked about freedom of mobility, which is very important. Safety. I mean, it's endless. There is so much good that can come out of good tech.
Like post-COVID, like we got this ability to work from home, and that helps a lot of women with young children, for example.
Sometimes.
Yes, it all comes with
maybe need to
caveats,
work double for that.
I guess it's about access to knowledge and using that knowledge to empower yourself to make better decisions and not just accept, as you were saying earlier, Camilla, like what you're told by people around you. There's so much more to access. I'd like to open the floor to questions. We have run out of time, but if you're generous enough to give us 5 more minutes, we'd love to hear from you. You're not generous enough? Yes, we do have a question.
Thank you. So that internal monologue that you had at the beginning, Robyn, about I should, 100 should. Like I see that in all important women in my life, my wife, my peers, my employees. And while for the other, form of, like baggage or discrimination, there is, best practice to help and support. I'm at loss for this internal dialogue. I only tried to speak about this with my wife, and it became item 101. I should not have so many shoulds. So how can I be a good ally there as an employer, as a husband, as a man?
It's a really nice question. No, I think you should go.
I've never been asked a question on stage before. This is so exciting. Oh, God. From my perspective, and this is maybe going to sound a little bit lame, but just listen sometimes. And I'm not saying you, like you don't listen, and I'm not saying men don't listen. I'm married to an amazing man, but sometimes things are, as we're seeing here, just a bit crap. And we know that it's going to take a lot of time and a lot of effort and a lot of running with a backpack on your back to make it better. And in the meantime, sometimes you just want someone to listen to you for a little bit and just go, and I should be skinnier, and my hair should look better, and I didn't cook dinner, and she's on Instagram and she's doing sensory play for her child, and my child's watching Peppa Pig, and I haven't finished my work. Oh my God, and I need a promotion. And it's a bit crap, and it's probably going to be like that for a while. And we're working on it. But sometimes you just want somebody to go, yeah. Sorry, that's really crap. I'm sorry. Do we have any more questions? Not for me.
I think we had one here and here.
Oh.
So,
do we have one here? I'm running in heels and pregnant. This is going to end well.
Thank you. But can I also kind of complement your answer? Also, women sometimes we're hard on ourselves when accepting help. So even if we say that we don't want help, maybe you can insist. Because the reason we have 100 things on our mind is because we feel like we're not entitled to receive help from others. So even if she says she doesn't want help with something, insist. Maybe she does want help with either preparing the lunch or the kids or the 100 things that she decided she has to do and not anybody else. That I learned this year, by the way.
I would like to add one thing to that, because it's not only what we are doing, it's also what we are taking responsibility for.
Yes.
So if we actually are saying that you are responsible for X, we want to be able to really trust that that happens. Maybe not in our way, because we don't have the right to tell people how to solve the problem, but we want to know that that will work. So it's also project management, time management, who is keeping the calendar up to date, who actually knows that you need to wash the skating gear for your little son. Things that needs to happen all the time. So share the responsibility, maybe not always the practical.
And my question was, even if we wish that it wasn't as common, we are commonly in these situations where maybe we don't have allies and we're in these spaces that are dominated by men. And we kind of feel like we have to stick it out because we want to be part of the change. We want to be one of the reasons that this company has more women and more representation. But how do you personally balance out when you have to stick it out so you can be part of the change, or when you have to take care of yourself, because sometimes we stick it out too long and then it wasn't even worth it. So how do you personally manage that?
I would say that, first thing is don't suffer silently, because that's the worst thing that you can do. If you really feel that, there is a problem, obviously it makes sense to find allies and all, and I know it's difficult to find, but there must be some. But in many ways, things are easier these days, because there is you go to LinkedIn, for example, and then so what I'm saying that yes, it's always necessary to voice your concern. First, obviously, you talk to your manager, talk to HR, talk to your colleagues, and those are the nice things. But if it doesn't work, and if you genuinely feel that something something wrong is happening to you because of your race or gender or whatever, we shouldn't let it go. We shouldn't suffer silently, because at the end, you will not be happy. And definitely, this is not a situation that anyone wants to be in.
Can I also add to that just a general rule that I try to apply for myself, and I
Yes.
think that everyone should apply it to themselves. You are allowed to be happy, and you are entitled to be happy with the work that you're doing. Period.
Do we have any further questions? That is good, because we're probably going to get kicked out of this room because we've run over time. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Thank you for engaging, and thank you for filling up this room. It means the world. I'm nearly done. Don't clap me up, Cole. It's the Oscars all over again. I just wanted to say, please, let's not end the conversation here. All of these fabulous ladies are on LinkedIn. They'll be posting tagging women in tech. So if you look through that hashtag, you should find them. Keep the conversation going with us. Keep the conversation going with each other. Please remember, you do not have to be perfect, and you are never, ever alone. Thank you.
Thank you.